Says, if that kind of a disaster happened in our neighborhood, would we be prepared? Would our state be prepared to handle such an evacuation? And so she came to me and she says, I need some help. Do you have some ideas that would be really applicable to our state? And I immediately had an idea. It's something that's been weighing on me for a long time. And I said, I know exactly what our state needs. And I speak at a lot of these seminars, and I teach a lot of classes, and I attend a lot of classes. I love to talk to people about their experiences, find out if they've been in a disaster, what worked for them, what they wish they had done, what they would take, you know, just what their level of experience. And I really enjoy talking to people. And I have found a common thread when I talk to just people about their level of preparedness. And I have found a void in the emergency preparedness industry. And it's something that I think has really troubled me for a long time. And good for Sherry, she's the catalyst in getting me going to get this done. If I were to ask people if they had gathered supplies and if they thought that was important, you'd all say yes. Even if you're not gathering supplies, the general public gets that emergencies are real. They happen. And we need to have some kind of supplies. It's good to have extra food and water and a 72-hour kit and flashlight and shoes by your bed. They get that. What I've learned that people do not fully understand is that gathering your supplies is only one piece of this large puzzle of being prepared. It's a very critical piece, and it's very important, and we need it. But it's just a piece. Everybody needs a solid plan. And when I ask people, do you have a plan for your family, and is it thought out and written down? Most people cannot say they do. But what they don't understand is the supplies that you've been gathering are not as effective if you don't have a plan. So let me give you an example. Since we're talking about grab-and-go kits, you can have a wonderful grab-and-go kit. And if you have to evacuate and get in your car, put it in, what's your plan for gathering your family? I mean, have you talked about meeting spots or the way you're going to reconvene, the way you're going to communicate? Have you thought about what are the emergency plans for schools or the office, and who's going to pick up which child? And do we have elderly parents that cannot travel independent that we need to take care of? What about pets, or if you have horses or livestock? There's a whole realm of a plan that needs to be thought out in advance before a lot of these other things that we're doing are really effective. So getting a plan in place is key, and that is what I have set out to do when Sherry asked me to teach this class. I set out to create a way that was very easy for people to create a plan, because I think it's a void in our industry, yet I think it is absolutely critical. So let's go with our grab-and-go kits, and we've got to leave, and we've got our kits. Okay, we've got to gather our family. What happens if you can't communicate and we're in the middle of the day? We might have somebody at an elementary school, somebody in middle school, maybe a high school, somebody at work. You know, we're going to be all scattered out. What is your plan to communicate? What is your plan to communicate if you don't have use of your cell phones? In the Harriman fires, they had so many people trying to jam up those phones that nobody got through. In fact, finally, the people who were in charge had to start saying, stop using your phones, because the emergency personnel couldn't communicate because all of the people were jamming up the lines. And they said, stop using them so we can get through and use our own lines in this emergency. So think about a plan for your family. How would you communicate? How would you reconvene? How would you gather together? Because I can tell you, as a mother, I don't think I would leave this city and leave a child behind. I just don't think I would. I don't think I could say, we're all here except so-and-so. I hope he'll make it out okay. You know, we just wouldn't. We have to have a plan. Now, take it one step further. Now you've gathered your family, you're in the car, you've got your wonderful kit and supplies. Where are you going? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about a destination that you could go to? And if you think about it in advance, would you have keys to that destination? Would you have maps of alternate routes to that destination, an alarm code, a garage door opener? Some of these things, as Kevin mentioned, in the moment of the disaster, you do not think clearly. You panic, and you cannot think of all the details. I talked to a guy who was in the Harriman fires, and it got to be very comical because he was telling me what he took and what he wished he would have taken. And he said 3 times they begged those police to let them go back in and get things that they remembered that they wanted to have from the house. So they left thinking they had everything. They were in a panic. They had been issued this evacuation order. And so they left, got down the road, thought of something that they absolutely could not be without, went back, said, just let us back into our house. We're going to be very quick. We forgot something. And they did that 3 times. So I said, what did you go back for? I was so interested. What did you go back for? Well, the first time they went back for cash. They had a large amount of cash, and they wanted to go back. The second time they went back, he had forgotten his stock certificates that are like cash. And it was quite a bit, and if you have the stock certificate, he can cash it in. But if it would have burned up, he'd have had no stock. And so they went back, and he says, I've got to have these stock certificates. And now this is the hard part, is we got talking, and he never told me the third thing that he went. But he did go. I know, I keep thinking, I hope I run into that guy again, because I'm dying to know what was the third thing that he went back into his house. But the point is they did not have a plan. It needs to be, and Kevin talked about this, it needs to be predetermined and written down, and it needs to be prioritized. If you only have 5 minutes, then what are you going to take? What is on your list that is the most important? You might only be able to get the first 3 items on your list, and then you are forced to evacuate. Maybe you've got 20 minutes, maybe you've got 30 minutes, and you can get everything on your list. The point is to have a list. It has to be something that is predetermined, prioritized, and written down. Okay, so sometimes if you don't have a plan, then all these things that we've gathered and all of these emergencies that we think we're prepared for are we're just not as prepared as we think we are, because we truly, truly need a plan. So what I've set out to do is create a plan. And we came up with the Prepare My Life Planner. Now, this is very interesting, and I'll tell you just kind of how it came about. The end of this is that it created so much excitement and so much enthusiasm that we had it published. So it's actually going to be available on the market, which we're very excited about. But what the plan is the first part is divided into 5 sections. Prepare my family, prepare my home, gathering your supplies, and then, as Kevin said, you got 2 options in an emergency. You got to stay or you got to go. And so there's a section to evacuate, prepare to evacuate, and a section on prepare to stay. And knowing there are situations where when you stay, it's better to stay than evacuate, there are some advanced preparations that are absolutely critical that you won't want to be learning about or discovering in the moment of the disaster. For example, who knows what sheltering in place is? Okay, it's just simply staying put instead of evacuating. However, what they commonly refer to as sheltering in place is when we have some kind of like chemical threat. It could be man-made, it could be an accident, it could be on purpose by terrorists, and sometimes you cannot get away from the chemicals fast enough to evacuate, and it is better to hunker down and seal yourself in. You can only do that if you've pre-thought this out and you've purchased plastic sheeting and duct tape. And there's a little guideline in here that can help you do that. I attended a shelter-in-place lecture not long ago, and she says, "You absolutely have